By how many points do Man City win the league?
20.
Yeah.
True Geordie is wrong about Man City. The Kickoff recently debated whether Man City have made the Premier League a one-team league, whether they made it boring and ruined it. And True Geordie and Rory were arguing that was the case. But they're wrong, and I'll explain why. I love True Geordie, by the way. He's a bit of a hero of mine. And I love the Kickoff, so I don't want this to come across as I'm having a go. I'm just outlining why they're wrong about City.
The league is gone. I think we live in a one-team league, and we are equivalent to Germany or when Scotland had...
It is embarrassing.
So this is the main argument. The Premier League is a one-team league, similar to what we've seen in Germany, where Bayern Munich have won the last 10 titles in a row, or in France or in Italy, where the same team has won the title 8 times out of the last 10. But straight away, that's not true. In the last 10 Premier League seasons, 5 different clubs have won the league, so hardly a one-team league. In fairness, City have been the most dominant side within that period. They've won 5 of those 10 titles. But there's no reality in which winning 5 out of 10 league titles equates to dominating the league to the point where it's a one-team league, where it's what we've seen in Germany or France or Italy.
Well, look at Haaland. I think, right, he's going to be there for a minimum of another 3 years. What is that going to be? 10 leagues in 11 for Man City? That is going to look terrible.
This next point is about what will happen. If City win the title this season and then a further 3 times on the bounce, that's 10 in 11, which is terrible, and that definitely would be a one-team league. But there are 2 issues with this point. First is, it's not 10 in 11. If we're to assume City win the next 4 in a row, it would actually be 8 in 11. Now, obviously, that's still a lot, and that would be dominating the league. But what I found really funny about True Geordie saying, oh, if they win the next 4 in a row, that's therefore 8 in 11, that's therefore terrible, that's therefore ruining the Premier League. This has quite literally already happened. Man United won 8 out of 11 of the first Premier League seasons. So based on that logic, wasn't football already ruined and already boring and already a one-team league long before City started to win titles? The reality is that the most recent decade of the Premier League has been more competitive than the first decade. As I mentioned earlier, in the last 10 seasons, 5 different clubs have won the Premier League title. The most dominant club, Man City, has won it 5 times. In the first 10 seasons of the Premier League, only 3 different clubs won the Premier League, and United was the most dominant with 7 league titles, which is 2 more than City. In both decades, there were 3 close title races, i.e. a gap between first and second of no more than 3 points. In the last 10 seasons, when City won the title, the average gap between City and whoever was in second was 7 points. In the first 10 seasons, when United won the league, the average gap between United and second place was 8.3 points, so a greater gap than City. Since the 2013 season, City's defended its title twice and has never won it 3 times in a row. From 1993 to 2002, United defended its title 4 times, so twice as much as City, and it won the title 3 times in a row. The inconvenient truth is that the Premier League over the past decade and on the title race level has actually been more competitive than in the first decade of the Premier League, when United won 7 out of a possible 10 titles and 8 out of a possible 11. And it's a similar story in terms of the middle decade. There was less variety of teams that won, and again, United won the title 3 times in a row.
Do you remember when Rangers were doing 9 in a row?
That is what we're looking at.
But it's not what we're looking at all. City hasn't yet dominated the league to the same extent as United did in the early Premier League era. City hasn't even won 3 titles in a row yet, and they're being compared to teams that have won 9, 10 titles in a row. Now, if City does dominate the league to a greater extent than United did and becomes the Bayern Munich of England with no real competition, then sure, they've obviously got a point. But that hasn't happened yet, and nor is there a guarantee it will happen, because anything can happen in football. When Liverpool were constantly winning league titles, particularly in the 80s, and they were the biggest team in England, it would have been unthinkable to contemplate the idea of Liverpool going 30 years without winning a league title and another club overthrowing them as biggest club in England. And yet, that's exactly what happened. When United were winning 8 out of 11 Premier League titles, when they got to 20 league titles overall, when they won 13 Premier League titles, when they were dominating the Premier League era, it was unthinkable that they would have such a significant drop-off and they go a decade without winning a league title. And yet, that's what's happening.
Jurgen Klopp got manager of the year.
Liverpool competed, but they weren't competing as in
they deserve huge
league.
acknowledgement for that, because what Liverpool did was actually create a facade, a mask, the ridiculous dominance of City. Because what we've had, even last year, we had a pulsating, captivating title race that went all the way. We thought that our league was competitive, but it wasn't. Jurgen Klopp made us think something that wasn't true.
Again, this doesn't make sense. If a title's won by 1 point, then it's competitive by definition, regardless of end result. You can't just look at the final outcome when deciding if something's competitive. Rory even says it himself, so I don't know why he's contradicting himself. The last season was a title race which went down to the last game of the season, and it was incredibly exciting. By definition, it was competitive. Let's say there's a football match and the 2 teams are evenly matched. The balance of play is very even. It's a competitive fixture. The result ends in a 3-2 to one of the teams. The simple act of one team winning does not then wipe out the competitive nature of the event. I just don't get that point at all. Especially because when you think of the most exciting title races the Premier League has seen, where it goes to the last game of the season, where it's pulsating throughout, City's been involved in nearly every single one of those, and they've certainly without a doubt been involved in the most exciting. Think of last season against Liverpool. Think of 2019 against Liverpool. Think of 2014 against Liverpool, and especially think of 2012 against Man United. How can you possibly say City make the Premier League boring when they've produced the most exciting seasons? They've created the most thrilling and iconic moments. And also, again, they're yet to dominate the league to the same extent as United. And moreover, they're miles off the domination we've seen in genuine one-team leagues. For me, rhetoric like this is just a reactionary response to Haaland's amazing start for City. And the point made about winning the title by 20 points, so look, I'd love it if that happens, and it could happen, but do we really think second place isn't going to get at least 80 points? Or do we think City are going to get more than 100 points? Either way, it would be a record, since the current record between first and second is 19 points. So yeah, that's the video. True Geordie's wrong about Man City. The kickoff team, if you're somehow watching this video, I'd love to come on the show to talk about this a bit more and to be a guest. Huge shout out to my high supporters on Patreon, by the way, Kante, Frozone, Owen. Love you guys and love everyone who supports the channel. If you want to get involved and directly support me and the channel, then the Patreon link is just in the description of this video. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you next time.